Hey there, welcome to the Metaverse Church Next show. My name is Jeff Reed, Director of Metaverse Church Next for Leadership Network. That's a mouthful, Director of Metaverse Church Next. I love that title. Show me one other person that has Metaverse in the church world in their title. There's very few of us around right now. And I tell you what, I love it. I love that we get to talk virtual reality, augmented reality, blockchain, crypto, decentralization, so much artificial intelligence, so many opportunities coming soon for the church. But I want you to know we're not just talking about virtual reality today. We are actually going inside virtual reality. That's right. We've been talking about virtual reality a lot. But when we wanted to focus on this one particular church in virtual reality, it was, you know what? We got to get the headsets on. We got to actually put the goggles on and we got to go inside. We are about to introduce you to Oasis Church VR, led by two guys, one called He Enables and the other VR Tiger. That's right, that's their handles. And that's what they're known by in virtual reality. And they do an incredible job, very creative in virtual reality space. So much so, it's like, hey, if we're going to show what a virtual reality church looks like, I really want you to get a chance to see this. You see, they do immersive world building based on the scripture that they're preaching. One of the earliest sermons that I saw was oh my gosh, it was the tabernacle. I saw another sermon that was like the Mount of Golgotha. And this one is interesting. You know what? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to want you to actually go watch this episode here when we talk it through and literally walk through these immersive world builds that come based off of the scripture. It's really beautiful stuff. And these guys, as volunteers, as co-vocational ministers and pastors, excuse me, bivocational ministers and pastors, work very hard to build these worlds every single week. And so, listen, the church has been around 6 months. By the way, the trying to do virtual reality on a smaller screen like this, the image isn't quite as big. It doesn't fill the screen. It's a known issue. We tried to make it. If you're watching this video and you're like, you know what, this doesn't look quite as immersive as what I thought the headsets would be. It's like the equivalent of watching, I don't know, like Seinfeld on a TV in like in the 90s where it's like that little tiny 13-inch TV and you're like, "Oh, that's kind of nice." And then you walk in and you're looking at some like virtual reality with the headsets on. It's like watching a 4K or an 8K image, and it's much more rich and it's much more expressive. So this is going to give you a taste of virtual reality, but not necessarily what virtual reality is. You still need to get the headsets. You still need to get one of these on. Just give it a shot. Meet some people, dialogue, check out some of the spaces, and we get into the conversation. But hey, for this conversation, I'm bringing in myself, Jeff, with the Church Digital, Digital Church Network, Leadership Network, Director of Metaverse Church Next. Also bringing in He Enables and VR Tiger from Oasis Church VR. Really focusing on the creativity surrounding virtual reality. Here y'all go.
Yeah, so this is our new venue,
Mm-hmm.
and since we've been building a lot of stuff custom, basically everything is you know built outside and brought in. We It's a lot different than our first world, which I think is a total God thing. Even though I have a background in creative arts and media and all that stuff, it's like this thing is kind of the worlds that we're building that we teleport out to make it immersive with the message. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of is more cohesive with that. So yeah, I wanted to show you the new venue, and I have a fun idea how we can show you a hub of ours that has all our world builds in there.
So how long have you been in this world?
So we do these world builds weekly, so it's kind of what we're known for, that we teleport to. So it's a funny thing because we're probably one of the only few churches that actually leaves the event space. So people come in here and they'll see this little blurb, and there'll be something on the screen that says, "Hey, we're in the portal below."
Mm-hmm.
Because that part's interesting. But we've been in here about, I don't know, what do you think? Four services, five? I don't even
A
know.
month, maybe a little bit longer with this
Yeah,
this one as opposed to the old one.
yeah. So the old one we started, I think, sometime in April, and so yeah, we've been in here probably maybe close to a month. But yeah, the cool thing about the services now is I don't want to get too wordy. Is basically, and I'll give you a tour of the venue. Is before we were doing kind of a message, and I think you experienced that at the last place. then we go into a short world build. It was my wife's idea actually, and she's an art director and whatnot. And she was like, "What you should do is just incorporate the message into the world build." And so we've been doing that for the last few world builds, and it's been really amazing. It's a total God thing because usually when we want to doing the message in here felt too traditional, and I think I was excited to go to the world build, and He Enables was, and I think everyone else. And so now we teleport in there, and it's kind of a tour. Whoever's doing the message will talk through the message, and then we have people reading the scriptures, and it's a full immersive experience. And the reason we like it because it's true evangelism, is most people aren't going to show up here. It's mostly going to be, you're going to have some new people that are curious, but we go outside the church into these world builds, and if they see King David, and we're talking about life of King David, or we're at the Tabernacle of the Wilderness, stuff like that, all these, it becomes popular, and all these people that typically wouldn't go to church will hop in there, and so they end up getting an opportunity to hear the gospel, read the scriptures, and experience church in a different way. So, but yeah, that's just kind of what we've been up to. I don't want to talk too much, but I'll give you a tour. So this is where everyone teleports in, and then if you come up to this fountain up here, this is kind of the gathering area, kind of where everyone just hangs out.
What's the mindset behind like space and the scenery that you've got?
So with the last world, we had this purple sky, and then initially we kept the when I first came on to do this, before he came on, I kept thinking when we named the church Oasis, we named it after a Ready Player One, the Oasis, and so
Mm-hmm.
um, it has like this modern kind of colors and stuff, and so that's kind of it. And then the Oasis kind of reminds me like maybe something like, you know, Adam and Eve, they're in like the Garden of Eden kind of deal. But so with this vibe, we want to just do something modern, abstract. So you got crazy looking mountains that could be like a sci-fi version of Hawaii. You got like an old world fountain people can hang
Mm-hmm.
around. And you got these big mountains, and around these mountains are actually bodies. There's some water there, and there's a lion statue under there, a waterfall. And then I'll show you later, which will be real fun. Is if we'll dive in there in the water later, and there's the wardrobe from Chronicles of Narnia. That's where we teleport into our world hub. So it's definitely abstract. Obviously, it's VR. You can kind of do whatever you
You
want. But
literally walk
so
through
this is kind of
the closet from Chronicles of Narnia, the wardrobe.
yeah yeah. I'll show you later.
That's
That's
amazing.
where we'll go to the next world. But so yeah. So if you come over here, everyone kind of just hangs out here, talks by the this old world fountain kind of vibe. And then up here, this is kind of where the service starts. And so some people like to sit in the pew areas or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
But we have flight enabled in all our worlds, so people kind of fly around during worship. So
Yeah. What's this water over here? Just a design element?
yeah, it's just a design element.
Very cool. Do you with you said you do like chosen videos? I feel like I saw the service where I was at. You were like flying in front of the screen with photos and elements and things like that. How do you use
Yeah.
the screen like when you're preaching?
So what I was saying was yeah, basically since we changed the flow of it, it's really the screen's just really used for maybe we play the Bible Project video, or we
Okay.
go through the announcements, we play worship, and we've been doing this thing called shout out, where I just put up everyone that's involved in the world, because we're all, I don't like to use the word volunteer, but we're all kind of just doing God's work, and
Sure.
we're passionate about it. And so we highlight the people with their avatars up there that may have greeted. We don't have a lot of people um, helping right now, but we'll highlight those that may have greeted, like my sister, con her into that. I'm just joking. And then people that are helping out with the world build, obviously he enables this. Me and him are always doing that, and D Willis and some others, and try to just keep it like a community driven. And anytime anyone's helping them, uh, intentionally giving them a shout out. So I think that's important. I know some people they think that's cheesy, but I do think it's important to show every it's just a community. This is not just like a one man band kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Well, I mean, a lot of
yeah,
work goes
so
into the world building. I mean, you guys do so much extensive work each week into this.
yeah, it's the world build stuff is It's pretty crazy. It's definitely a God thing because, like, even when he came on, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna be into world building." In the back of my mind, now he's like, he is just amazing with like the numbers and just in world building in general, doing stuff. And we have someone named D Willis that I was first creating the first church venue you saw. He would show up and encourage me, and he became friends with him, and we kind of just we're out building the worlds during the week. That's where people will pop in and wonder what we're doing, and so there's a ministry element to that. And I think like the one last world we had. If I talk too much, let me know too. I drink a
You're
lot,
doing
sir.
great.
So okay, but the one last world we had this guy named Josh, and he just came up to He Enables and was like, "Yeah, I want to help." Um, and I don't know who he is. So now I'm giving this guy access to a world that we're building, which they take a lot of time. We both work during the day, so sometimes in my mind I'm like, by the time I haven't decompressed at all from work, and I put these goggles on, and now I'm trying to build a world with these guys, and it's a fun experience, but at the same time it's like there's like a pressure of weight with it. But anyway, so this guy, I gave him access, and sure enough, He Enables and Josh were moving scriptures around, and I was like, that's amazing. I mean, he never even been to the church. So it's and again, we've had experiences where not as much lately, but when we were doing world builds where example Mount Sinai, which you saw, we had a lot of those the Muslim faith coming and wondering if I was telling the whole story and the scriptures. And I'm not a debater. He's very good at it. But and we were just kind of like, it opens up the door. Like, I don't want to say too much, just the scriptures are there, you can read them. And and so I think that speaks for itself when these people that don't go to church, when we hop into the world build, they're able to experience that in a completely different way, and they can leave anytime they want. So it's not like it's a different experience. I think for people that would never go to church, like we had a guy, I ran into him again. He's in the music industry, and I'm not going to name drop what artists he worked with, but we did this David series, and it had a psalm inside of a building that we teleported in. I brought this audio sound. There's this bell ringing. It's kind of a dark scene. And then you're looking up the scripture. It's one of the psalms that David wrote about his repentance of Bathsheba and killing her husband, basically. So this guy, he goes, I'd like to volunteer to read. Never been to the church before. And sure enough, he read it. And I was
That's
just like,
amazing.
it's amazing. Because then
He shouldn't
I
have
saw him.
even had audio.
No, he didn't have audio, so we don't even know how he read it. I saw him again, accidentally bumped into him. He's in a studio mixing a song and all this stuff, and he's worked with big artists and stuff. And again, I'm not. It's not the reason. The reason was he said one thing to me. He's like, oh, that was amazing. They had this big screen. They were showing the Bible in this way, and there's some violence in it. So I think some dudes like we show the blood and swords and all that stuff. It's part of the Bible, but he was like, I needed some spirituality in my life. And so when he said that, it gives me confirmation. I think for what we're doing.
So we have a good core group that comes. But like you said, when we go into those worlds, there's people that pop out just because of the popularity that are walking through the message of whatever it is with the Bible verses everywhere here in the sermon. So
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Like what he's saying too is that like I couldn't honestly do this without him. Like as soon as he said he wanted to do this, I was like, it's going to be successful because like I said, this not to get too much into the backstory. We had a mutual friend, I won't say who it was, that had COVID, ended up in the hospital, like real bad stuff. Look, they were almost going to like die. And I haven't talked. I mean, we've talked, but we haven't seen each other since high school. That's how long.
Oh,
And
no
so
kidding.
we began to, yeah, we began to pray every single day for her, like really pray. And it was weird because there was something about it, me and him praying and then praying for this person, and then sure enough they're in a better place now. But it was like during that time, this idea and a lot of this stuff I was thinking kind of got birthed, and it connected the dots. And it's a total God thing because I'll be honest with you, like every time I've wanted to give up or we run into stuff like it's not going to work or how are we going to do this, like since day one it just keeps getting better and better. And so I think God's definitely involved in it, but it's at the same time it is we are building a custom world weekly, and that includes a message, includes the whole world build with 3D assets that have to be brought in in an art direction, and all of us are working to do that. So it is a daunting task considering that we're not, there's not some big box church that's like And I have a lot of friends in ministry and international, and I've kept under the radar just because a lot of them don't take this that serious yet. And I'm not saying all of them. And so I know there'll come a time, like, we had one service where at a prayer area, and he started praying for someone, and you could just feel God's presence fall in VR. I was just
That's
like kind
awesome.
of blown away by it. Like, so, because I know there's going to be at some point someone's going to take off their VR goggles, and there'll be a new creation. This will be their experience. Like, I had a crazy testimonial, and he does too, coming to Jesus. But this will be like something that blew. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Take these goggles off, and it's like reality has really changed. So it's pretty cool to think about, but it does feel like unseen work sometimes. So, but we're excited to do it, and we'll just keep pushing forward until see what happens. Really, it's just kind of it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, hey, show me some of these worlds. Like what
Yeah.
do some of these world builds
So,
look like?
so what we'll do, I'm going to take you to our hub because I just think this will be a good experience. So what we're going to do, and I don't know if he enables pick where he want to go. I honestly don't know, but if we just jump in the water here, so you're basically just going to fall inside the water here. So we add a lot of audio effects and stuff. So this is the wardrobe from Narnia, and so our hub to our world builds every Sunday gets archived here, so people can come back and experience it, and those that don't go to the church happen to save it and stuff. So already, but so this is Oasis Worlds, and so this is, if you look around here, you'll see the worlds right here, and eventually they will go around the whole place and then some, because we're going to go through the whole Bible, and we're in the Old Testament, and so this thing will be a place where we do one weekly that people will come in, and sometimes they don't even go to church, and they'll come in here and check out some of these worlds. And so if you look behind us, you got the lion. He's trampling the serpent with the gold VR goggles. That's kind of our maybe our mascot and mission. And so you got some abstract stuff in here, but this is kind of our hub. But and then from here
Well,
we can.
I tell you what,
Yep,
let's talk about the lion trampling the serpent wearing the VR goggles. Shooting lasers out of its mouth. Like
absolutely.
okay, so creative direction, where'd the idea come from? How did you execute it? Like tell me about this.
Okay, so we built this world, and then I wanted to bring in like a big kind of like a majestic thing. You got the Roman pillars, and I kind of try to bring in this. We're doing this like Old Testament thing and teleporting and having a certain style, and so I wanted to bring the lion. And then when I saw the serpent, I was like, that speaks to me as far as what we're doing. And then jokingly, I brought these VR goggles in, and I jokingly put them on the lion, and then D Willis was here that helps with our world builds, and he started
Mm-hmm.
laughing. He's like, that's it. And so I put the controls in, the pause. That's kind of it, and that's kind of where that came about. It's just, sometimes we just do stuff organically, and it just works out. But yeah, that's not the
Very
best
cool.
answer, but
Is
that's
is that
basically
is
it.
that
Yeah.
built in Unity? Like how was something like that constructed?
So a lot of this stuff is. So I don't have a whole lot of time, so I would say I'm really good with like art direction and curating stuff. And so, oh yeah,
For this specifically, I'm not sure because you did it, but there's programs like Sketchfab and Blender and Unity, which
Okay.
all will take 3D objects and then be able to get them in here in different ways and
well, but the 3D stuff, I have no desire to do 3D. I have friends in the industry that worked on animations and films and stuff, like
Yeah.
major motion picture stuff. It's not my wheelhouse because it takes so much time. So
Yeah,
I have to
totally.
really curate and find stuff. I make the characters with the program he recommended. We'll show you some of them, these biblical characters, but it's like, for the most part, because we're doing it weekly and we're a very small team, it's a matter of how can I take what I can find, these assets that are available to me, and make them work. And so that's kind of it. It's a creative process, but it's by no means I don't think easy. I think someone has a background in 3D and stuff would dominate in this space if they had the time frame for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, we're doing this at night and we work during the day, so it's like it's a tricky thing. It's a lot of trial and error. And here the other thing, not to get too techie, is when you're bringing 3D stuff into a virtual reality world like Alt Space VR, it's not just like Unity's made for games, like video games and certain stuff. So there's certain stuff you got to bring in a certain way. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it crashed the world. It's a very it makes it feel like your brain's bleeding, honestly, half the time. You know, you bring something in, next thing you know, you can't move, you're glitching. So it's one of those things, it's trial by error. And someone once told us that we met, it was like the stuff that you're doing, probably no one's done it before. So everyone that's doing these VR experiences, you may be the first one doing these things, you know,
Wow.
if that makes any sense. There's
Totally.
no there's some videos, but there ain't a whole lot of tutorials. You kind of just have to
Yeah.
push through and see if you can figure out how to troubleshoot stuff. So that's kind of it. That's the
Yeah.
boring stuff, but
I had a friend tell me that pioneers get shot, settlers get rich. And so in many ways you're killing yourself trying to do this to be the first. And so that's beautiful, that's awesome, and you're paving the way for future, for others, for other churches, for other people to explore the space. So very, very cool.
I don't remember even. Yeah, it's funny. These been so long since we've been in here. I kind of forget what they look like.
Wow.
I haven't been in here in a while, and the last time I was in here, the sky was red. So, yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah. I just
that 3D fire and smoke, but
Oh, it won't.
no, because it's 3D. It'll show it in 2D, but if you want to see it,
I didn't
There was
know
an
that.
angel in there in that fire and stuff last time I was in here.
And
Wow.
also, too, with your environmental audio, you can turn it down. Some of the sound effects are a little loud on this one, and as we progress, we've learned to tone them down a little bit. So I don't know if that'll affect anything or not, but
It'll make for a fun environment. All
okay.
right, so walk me through, like when you did church in this space, you did a sermon, like what was the
So
what was
this
the
is
vibe?
Yeah, so this is the older worlds where we're actually doing the message in the old venue. And then
Okay.
we teleport here, and it was a matter of just we talked about it already briefly, and everyone kind of reads the scriptures and walks through it. But this flows completely different on what you'll see next. What we're doing is now we do the message in here. So it'll be a message, and then someone will read. Then we'll. So it's more. So this one was kind of our old school way, which is it still worked. He has got a lot of feedback of people coming in here and literally crying in the middle of the
Oh,
world,
yeah.
just random stuff. So you can see Egypt behind you, and you know you're heading towards the promised land. So we can kind of walk through.
Yeah, would love it.
I don't know if it's parted yet. Let me know if it did. I think we're good. I think we're good.
Wow. I almost don't want to rush through this. Just take my time walking through. He enables. How long does something like this take to program?
This was an interesting one, this particular world, because what happened during this one is, as we were creating it, I mean, I had some like wheels. I was building a wagon just by hand, and people came in. This was multiple people that all came together. There was one individual that said they always wanted to do a world like this. So he had the water and everything in here as it is, and some of this stuff, the moon, even some of what you saw back there with Israel, and some of that was in combination with other people that just came in and helped in a whole different way on this one. Everybody just wanted to
Wow.
do this one.
So you'll literally have
how
people
long?
come in. Oh, I just want to be clear. You'll literally have people come in the middle of this thing and be like, "I want to contribute." People that you don't know.
Not all the time, but with this in particular one,
Uh-huh.
I'll name his name because he has some really cool worlds in alt space. His name is Ja Cujo, and so he
Okay.
came in. I had brought this water in because he told me you need to do this, and I was like, great, I got to bring 3D water in here, and so I'm already intimidated. sure enough, it all starts working out. He shows up and he goes, I always wanted to do the parting of
The
the Red
parting of
Sea.
the
And so
sea.
he kind of parting the sea. So he started helping as well. And it was just one of those things. So, yeah, so it's an interesting world because I just feel like it's kind of like a God thing. You go to do something, you're like, this seems impossible. A guy shows up with all these special effects and he helps out in a certain way. So, kind of one of those
More than that, there were
mysteries.
people that were in here that we didn't know at all.
Oh yeah,
That
absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of people in here. You're right.
yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, this is the old flow, so there wasn't really any message. I don't think when this one it was more just reading the scriptures. Now it's a lot different the flow where everything happens, and you'll see that in a newer world. But one's still real popular. But you got fun things like here. There's some gold bars. Pharaoh's army. Accidentally dropped some stuff there and that whatnot.
Got some interesting skulls and bodies laying around.
And then with all
This
these
one.
world builds towards the end, we always end with a worship experience at the end. So no matter any world, we always end with worship at the end. So there's one worship song, a beginning, and the Oasis Church one, and then we always end the whole experience with worship. And so
Yeah.
it's been a cool experience, and then prayer, obviously.
I'll tell you what, this wall
Yeah,
of water is powerful, man. Like sitting down
It
here,
is.
being below it, seeing it towering above the red sky. Walking around, seeing scriptures, reading Exodus in real time. Like, this is very cool.
And this is he enabled. So if you do get to experience some of our worlds and stuff like this has he enables written all over it. So we don't take the Disney approach. This is kind of Disney-esque, but you'll see in some worlds there'll be puddles of blood and skeletons and some guys get mauled by a lion. So it's funny because we show all of it. I'm sure they've seen crazier stuff on Netflix. So and this one's in particular, this one's pretty cool because when we had a worship moment, we had someone that was really touched by the experience of all this because
Mhm.
it's kind of like the series. You're coming out of Egypt and you're kind of looking, kind of seeing what God can do, and so I think a lot of people were impacted by this world in general. I think obviously, I think when we go the next time around, we can do a lot better, but it's kind of cool to come back and see some of the older stuff we've done. And I think when you start reading the scriptures and you think about coming out of Egypt and coming to the promised land, and you can kind of see it in a visual way. It may not be the best graphics, but it's a way that you can kind of connect in an immersive way. I think it's really amazing.
Totally. Now, you guys have been... Oasis has been launched, what, 6 months, 7 months? When did you...
I think since April, right?
April, so
Was our
3 or
first
4.
service.
How... This was early in the process? Like, what, do you remember week 2, week 4, week 10? Kind of where was this?
There's probably 5 or 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our fifth service. It was one where I was just like, if you notice when you go to our worlds, they get better and better and better. And I'm not saying this one's still cool, but it's like
Oh, totally.
it's just one of those things.
So this one, when we got here and we read the final verse, this one, it prompted me to speak because we'd gone from Genesis, right, and creation. We'd gone through Passover. We'd gone through different things of wandering in the wilderness at this point in time. And I said, look back. Look back. They saw these miracles, and there's this whole generational, you see you're there, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden generations, and then you're worshiping idols. We've gone through that. We've gone through that. We've seen it. We've seen them worship idols. We've seen. Here we are. Are we gonna do what they did, or are we gonna take this? You know what I mean? And walk in who He's called us to be, and trust Him. Look what He did. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And they're walking through it, and it's just something that we've never seen. This capability to walk immersively through something like this just has not been in existence
So when
other than a vision.
yeah, beautiful, VR Tiger, you preach this sermon outside of this world, and then you brought
Yeah.
people into the world as a application experience, and you're talking a little bit as you're walking through.
Yeah, and it was like the experience that I think you were at the Passover service when we went to the, yeah, and so it was that kind of same thing, but now we've completely changed, and so it's very different. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but it's a lot of fun because it just makes more sense. So it's a completely different style now.
Yeah,
When here I'll pull something up real quick, just very very quickly.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so this is the one that we're currently working on. And so I'll do a quick 5 minute sketch of the world because now it's not just you're walking through and a few people are reading scriptures. Now it's like we're going to start off with the fall of Solomon, Jeroboam, Solomon dies, Rehoboam rejects, they're worshiping golden calves. The man of God gets, mauled by a lion. The kingdom of Israel is divided. And so there's this, now it's just not just, we're just set a message before and we're going in and we're going to read some scriptures. Now like you're fully immersed in it the whole time, and so I may be walking right here or whoever's speaking and we may be talking about the next scene before it happens or other narratives. So it's a lot of fun. It's kind of daunting at times because we're always in the world build, but somehow it's been working out, and it's been a lot of fun. I think a different experience of church in general. So that's kind of our new flow. But yeah, I don't know. You want to go check out another world, or what do you think?
Yeah,
Let's
show me
start with
something.
Ruth.
Yeah, show me something more modern, where you're
Okay.
preaching while you're walking through. I'd like to get that vibe.
Yeah, I got a good idea on if we want to head back over here.
Cool.
So this is I believe we went into King David Part 2, I believe. I started getting all these worlds mixed up because we're always thinking about the next one. I guess it's like in real life church. It's like, Super Bowl Sunday. You're just always the next Sunday. You kind of look behind, and so yeah. So if you so as people come in and spawn in, they experience worship at the church, some announcements. Now we've teleported here. Now the message starts here, and so whoever is doing the message, we'll give a backstory what happened in the last world, and then we'll just kind of there'll be a message integrated through this, and so and then what we always do is before the service starts, we get at least 3 volunteers to volunteer to read. What we used to do is call on people, and it just creates a bad experience because you're not sure if they want to read, and you're waiting too much, and people don't have a lot of time, and so the message will be happening and explain, and you'd have to come to the new service to get the vibe of it, but and then we'll call on someone to read the scriptures and we'll elaborate on the scenes and what's happening, and then we'll kind of just I'll just kind of roughly take you through the whole road kind of quickly. Um, and so particular scene was a little awkward because I'll probably forget all the details right now because my mind's going a million miles a minute. But you know, we'd elaborate on the story here before we go teleport in here. So if you hit this teleport button, so go to the next scene. So this is a controversial scene, which again, a lot of the Old Testament stuff has some stuff in it. It's really showing humanity, and this stuff still exists in this day. That's his half sister. She ends up getting raped. It's a bad scene. David doesn't acknowledge it. David's household starts falling apart. It's just a lot of stuff, a lot of drama is happening in this, but people can relate to these stories and we share them. I don't think they're the most popular stories. you would share in a typical service, but it's exciting to have the opportunity to do this. And I always like to throw in something funny every once in a while. So if you turn around, you got a picture of King David with Goliath's head over the fireplace. Why not? It's his dad. So
Oh
again,
my gosh.
so so yeah, we'll skip to the next scene. And again, this one was a heavy one because kind of explained like King David didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So obviously Absalom, he waits a couple years and he ends up killing him for revenge. But we just start. We don't get too preachy with it. We let the scripture speak, but we do elaborate on deep stuff and kind of go through the next. So obviously, if you turn around, Absalom, it's been a couple years. He takes his brother to a dinner party and all the kings, and turns into a mafia movie basically. But we won't get into all of it. But we'll tell the message and what's happening. And these are kind of the new characters we've been using. They've gotten a lot better. This is the first time we really started using them, thanks to He Enables, because it's hard. Like I said, sometimes you're pioneering this stuff, so there's not a bunch of Bible characters out there. Like, can I have an Absalom 3D model I can somehow find? No, it doesn't exist. You gotta figure it out on your own. So, and
Yeah, we
again,
literally could not find, even to purchase, which we weren't going to do, we could not find 3D biblical characters anywhere. And we deduced that it's gaming. The stuff's created for games. And so games generally leave out the biblical characters, right?
Sure.
So we were able to with Make Human once he because I was creating some things in there, and once he saw it, we were able to take people and you can make them older, you can make them younger, you can have the same character younger and then older. It's just a whole
yeah.
new
So
world. These things were not in existence.
it's a game changer when he found that, because I was thinking of my old ways. I'm literally like stripping like this Viking character, taking all his stuff off. I'm like, that looks like a David. He's good enough. And like you're just like, it's virtual reality. But now now everyone's got a toga on and
Yeah.
whatnot. But and even Absalom, he looks very feminine. But I did that on purpose because he's the prettiest guy in all of Israel. Then he may be a little too pretty. So we've gotten better with the modeling, but that's just a side joke.
Yeah.
But if you want to go to the next scene here,
Before
just
you
kind of
go,
so
when we're here, how long are you preaching? What are you talking about? Like, what does actually like preaching this scene look like?
what's interesting about it, I think I've been doing it, is it's a tricky thing. So now we map out the world. I'll map out like I know these scriptures are going to go here quickly. It's very hard, and then I'm only going to show these teaser scriptures because I'm going to fill in all the gaps in between or whoever's doing it, and then we're going to point out deep stuff. As there's references of Christ is a revelation of him all throughout these stories. So later you'll see Absalom hanging in a tree, with 3 spears in his heart, and it says, "Cursed is anyone who hangs by a tree." And start going into the Old Testament and the law and all these revelations. So you can get like to pull out some deep nuggets, but just as much context. So just like you're going on a tour, it may be a tour of Israel, but we're going to this tour of this virtual world. We're going to give you as much information before we set up, before they
Yeah.
read the scriptures and go on to the next one. And so that's kind of the flow. You'd have to experience it.
Are people asking questions? Are they talking? Are they? Is it monologuing?
Everyone,
Go ahead.
everything's muted in here because there's just too much background noise. You got the lady with too many cats, and you got her in the background. I'm just joking around, but there's just the feedback gets crazy. It interrupts the service, so you got to mute all.
Okay.
And then once we have the worship experience, and then with Salvation College, does anyone need prayer? We unmute, and so we do that. We just treat it like a regular service in here, where if you were at a church and you were sitting in the sanctuary, you just want to be like, a new guy to church might be like, "Hey, pastor, I don't know about that." I'm saying? So it's kind of that flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
very cool.
Where we're standing and at each place that you've gone, this is where he will, in this one, he's elaborating on the specific things. So every place we go, it's kind of a stop, observe. The message is coming out more and more. Move to the next place. The message is more, so it's interactive in that capacity. Hopefully that explains it a little more in depth. Where the message was up front before, Now it's in different sections in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like for example, if you see that rock behind you, if we were just walking towards that in real life in the city, I might be setting up a conversation with whoever speaking before we get to it, and so it naturally it's a I don't know if it's been done before, but it may have. But it's kind of the flow we've been doing, and it's been working out really well because this is where I think the real ministry happens because this is not the church anymore. We're basically missionaries in the metaverse because
Hmm.
people are coming into this world. It doesn't say Oasis Church. It has an abstract name. Well, the King David doesn't, but a lot of the other ones do. Like our world build this Sunday is called the Divide.
Hmm.
It's about the divide of Israel, South and North, and all that. But the thing is, we try to keep them abstract because we want people to come in here, and I think it's a good opportunity. Sometimes it's just the people from the church that are here, and sometimes you get a bunch of people that would never go to church, and so I think it's what we're doing is different in that capacity, and so that's a lot of fun. But head over this next one because I think this one's pretty cool. So we add sound effects every once in a while, trying to get better with, but and they're linear, so they kind of disappear as you walk. And again, you go, and they'll be elaborate on the scene, and King Absalom is basically he's causing a rebellion. He's claiming himself king, and so you're kind of just again going. We'll hang out here for a little bit, and then call on our volunteers to read the scriptures.
Wow. The
So
characters make
whatever.
this a lot more viable. Like it adds a
So
lot of
yeah, it's
depth to it.
yeah. So that's why we went. I'm glad he picked that one because that's kind of the way we were doing it. Now,
Hmm.
like I said, I really think it's a God thing. I think, I just think what we're doing, his hands not on it, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna bring this guy in, or can't do this, and then we'll go back to our day job. But I think God's in it, and honestly, sometimes I know we're in the Old Testament. Sometimes I'm like, give me the wisdom of Solomon, even though he did all the dumbest things in the world. I need to know what's the future hold for the stuff that you want to do. Like, give us the resources, the people on our path to do this stuff. Because again, some of this 3D stuff's way over my head. I'm good at other stuff, and even him, like, we just stuff works out, and so. But I don't want to get too preachy on that, but that's kind of how we feel about it. So this one, again, this is this part of the Bible? Probably not, but it's kind of cool to do a body of water and walk across it and talk about um, this next scene where David basically he's got to flee Zion, and Absalom and the armies are coming after him, and so it's a good time we can just stop and hang out, and so just we try to add some creative stuff as we're walking. It's not rushed, and so you got to walk a little bit. It creates opportunities to probably need to put myself on megaphone. I am double checking. So again, this one is kind of a walk, and so our characters have changed a lot since this is the old way we're kind of doing characters, and so like that was King David in the last one, and so character different. So he's got a man bun, he's got a gray beard, but it's kind of whatever. What can we use that works? I don't know. I'm like, there's no Bible characters, but you can see the transition. We're kind of changing, or got to bring a horse in. It's just, I mean, it seems simple, but none of this is. I think at some point, we'll have an archive of stuff to bring in, but each world we do, we're bringing everything custom in. And there may be some assets that we use that Altspace provides and other designers, but we're trying to break the mold. And honestly, this is kind of, like I said, there's no big box church. We're not accepting like tithes right now and all that stuff. We're just doing this for
Yeah.
God, and I'm doing it like I would at the capacity I would at my full time job during the day, and he is too. And so I've always been like that. I'm like, this is my offering. This is for you, God. Let's if he's in it, then that's great. Like I said, but this is kind of what we're doing, and so we'll see where that goes. But so yeah, again, like we're just kind of going through scriptures here, going through this town. And then the scene's pretty cool. This was my favorite one because when we got to the scene where Absalom is hanging from the oak tree over there, you know, there was some revelations of Jesus in that, and
Hmm.
there's the donkey, and I won't get into all of it because it is really deep. But it's like there's moments like that where I think people can see Jesus. And in this Old Testament, Old Testament stuff, sometimes people are scared of narratives and the violence, and they think God's just a God, just a lot of wrath going on. There isn't. There's always, in all these worlds, there's always a revelation of Jesus. Obviously, we're going to make it to the New Testament, but I think that the knowing the foundation of all this, especially people that don't, not believers or never went to church, I think a lot of people that, I don't watch Game of Thrones personally, but you know, one that watches medieval stuff or wants to see, you can't do this in a church service. You can't throw three spears. You know, and you tell the whole story of, Joab,
Hmm.
David's commander, just going AWOL again, and so again, like there's a message wrapped around all of this, and it's
Yeah.
funny as we've been in the Old Testament, the donkeys, he's just always there, but just joking around,
Has
but
anybody been upset like with the blood or stuff like that? Has anybody complained to you, or is it accepted, understood?
interestingly, he's the first one to bring in the blood component. He had a scene where the serpents in the wilderness were, and we created these huge snakes I brought in, and there's blood everywhere and skeletons, and he was so proud of it. It was like when he really got into it, the zone with it, and I was just like, man, I don't know. And same with Mount Sinai, and we just kept with it because truth is there's a lot of stuff that happens in this, and we kind of want to show a realistic side of it, and a lot of our demographic is female, and it's a very diverse church, and everyone seems to be excited about learning the Old Testament, and there's just clearly a lot of drama. Even our next world build, in Kings, Solomon has gone, he's worshiping idols. I mean, king after king, they're all just worshiping other gods and sacrificing kids. It's all crazy, but it all leads to Jesus. And this is just the foundation of how Christianity has happened and how we find Jesus. And so we just leave it all in there. And there's other churches, I think, that they want the bright, everything is happy no matter what. And I think that's great too. But I think we do have a little edge, and I think bringing this edge, especially because we're not in the church anymore. Yeah, it's part of the church, but we're out in the metaverse now. It doesn't say church, so the people popping in here, I think
Hmm.
they're going to be more receptive to this, and that's not the main reason. We're not doing it for that reason. Like, oh, add a bunch of blood over there because Joe Bob's going to show up and he's going to be like, save. But it's not that. It's just how can we make this experience more immersive and kind of feel it in that way. So
And the general feedback is that they like the real. I mean, to the degree that it can be. Obviously, it takes some artistic. You can only work with what you can work with right now, with the limitations that are there. They like the reality of walking through these messages because it's just a whole nother. I mean, it would be really difficult. I tried to explain it to my father, and until I put the headset on him, couldn't comprehend what
Yeah.
this was. Same thing with my brother until they were able to see it. Now they saw it in 2D and they could comprehend it more. They comprehend it more, but until you see this in 3D and walk through this and realize not only is it the word, the Holy Spirit revealing the word if you're hearing, and then you're in the word, like you're literally in the message. Um,
yeah, it's powerful because not to interrupt because I just got excited, but like our last world build was the Temple of Solomon. We're in the Temple of Solomon. We're talking about the scriptures where he dedicated the temple, and God's glory came in like a black cloud. It lit uh, the sacrifices on the altar, fire from heaven. Can't really picture that unless you're an immersive experience. And then there's a replica of the temple. And now you're kind of like, we're not in a real space, but I just created this space. If we're consecrating it to him and it's all for him, I think he's going to move in that. And we do pray that. We pray that like people will experience God in new ways here. And I think they do. And so there's some stuff that like even like when we went to the tabernacle in the wilderness, there's a bunch of animal sacrifices and blood everywhere. You got the scapegoat. You
Yeah.
can't just Leviticus would be a hard one. And I think you mentioned in a blog that you wrote. It was really cool. But it's like the truth of it is that it's hard to show in church. You can't put a slide up. Look at this animal sacrifice. But when you're starting to think about it, and you know, there's the fear of God, the power of God, and just all these things. I think that your foundation as a believer, I think will be stronger. And I think it's good to, yeah, like I said, it's by accidents we ended up in the Old Testament, but I think it's such a rewarding experience. Um, yeah,
When it
we're
reveals the New
excited.
Testament, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not something that most people go to. Most people go right to the New Testament, and never take the
Yeah.
time to be in the Old Testament to understand how much of the New Testament, literally, how much of Jesus' words are actually quotations out of, you know, the Old Testament. And so it's a interesting experience. But this basically hits just about every learning capacity. So you have the visual, you have people that read, you have it's hitting all of that.
again, like yeah, I don't think it's what we're doing. I think it's new in that sense. It's intimidating when I went to first go do this, and I told him I was going to do it. My wife recommended it. I was like, man, I'm like, you know, I'm walking and everyone stop here, and then you know, and then it just works, and so it's really cool. It's a great experience. But what I'm excited about too, if you have enough battery, if we finish this world, I'm pretty sure I didn't delete it. We have a worship experience, this like 500-foot cube that I think we could end on that you would really like.
Yeah, lead the
Do you
way.
want to? Stuff like this is fun to do every once in a while. So you know, there's an angel of the Lord. Obviously, you can't show this stuff in a regular church service, but the stuff is in the Old Testament, so you get to do some fun stuff. So, you know, was the angel of the Lord that big and had a sword of fire on it? I don't know, but I think it looks cool. And so, you know, I think people can, you know, maybe somehow experience what he felt. He was like, "Hey, these are
Yeah.
the three plagues, pick one," you know, and so it kind of elaborates from there, and he picks the lesser of the three evils. So I really want to end on this worship experience that he enables, introduced to our services, which is mind blowing. I think it's amazing, and so I think it'll be cool to end with that because I think it's icing on the cake. If we head over here, what he enables to kind of end with a, if you have some other questions you want to ask maybe prior to that, but we kind of end with this worship experience would be cool. But there's the worship scenes after this, and so this was the scene I wanted to tell you about. These are the last words of
Wow.
David. So this is the last words, and sure enough, the next book we go into, he's still alive. He's on his deathbed, but that's how the book ended. And so there's moments like this where I know, you know, there might be a window way up there, and there's someone up there that's they're just listening, and it's I don't know. We just feel the presence of God towards the end, where you know it's something as solemn as this. This is his last words. He's reflecting back on his life, and you know he's committed sin. He's also I don't want to get into the whole story, but it's a moment for people to really experience God. So it's not, and we never want it to be like a Disney ride. There is bells and whistles and stuff we add. Like there's deep moments in this, and we talk about tough stuff. We don't get too preachy and talk about, hey, I walked my dog today and then I went here. Because I don't think a lot of people have time for that. We bank on the scriptures and we're going to set up the scene and what's happening here. We're going to give people sometimes the opportunity right now. Hey, if you don't know Jesus, and we might go off cuff like that. And I think we did in this moment. But this is one of my favorite scenes right here. My favorite, but there's something about it. If we go to the next one, this is kind of the worship experience. And so we'll have a worship song in here and people were flying. And so we had not this one, but the other King David part two, which I'm gonna confuse right now what we're in, but played the elevation worship song elevation worship song, Ina Judah or whatever it's called. And kind of we're theming songs that actually building the world based on it. Sometimes it's the actual song that it's about it. And it just drives it home. And it's
Yeah.
and we're kind of over spiritual about the songs we pick. He may be like, I'm thinking this one. I'm like, I don't know. And then next thing you know, so it's just like I think a regular church experience where
Yeah.
we get a little more creative liberty with this. We try not to put God in the box, let him kind of I know it sounds crazy, but what we do, like these world builds half the time, I'm like, I don't even know if they're gonna get done. It's gonna make sense. Got, a guy with 3 spears in his heart. Is that gonna go over well? So it just kind of works out. But if you have any questions, we'd love to answer any and then kind of end with the worship experience in here because I'm a
Totally.
big fan of it.
How far ahead are you planning? Are you week to week? Do you know what you're going to do in August? Like what's the schedule look like?
Yeah, that's funny because I remember when I first got into ministry, it's a long time ago. I was involved in some churches and stuff in media, and I've been in the gamut of stuff. But it's like being ahead tricky. And so with what we're doing, I think it's what you said, like pioneers. We're really like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna do it this week. Um, and somehow it all works out. And without He enables and D Willis and those that help, this thing wouldn't exist. So it's a team thing, and it's just the kind of what we're doing. And like I said, when you're pioneering, we don't have a lot of resources. There's not outside um as of yet because we are a nonprofit, legit
Mhm.
nonprofit. We
Okay.
are in the metaverse, but we are not 503(c) tax exempt yet. We believe that we're a real church, and so we probably will eventually get donations from the outside world. We know people and maybe give Oculus Quest to those that are in need that want to experience church or persecuted or figure out an angle how the outside world maybe fund. We can get some better experiences in here or be able to bless some other people that may not be able to experience church like this. And so it's kind of be a futuristic plan, but just basically in the grind week by week. We don't add that little map I showed you. It's kind of like I think this is what we're gonna do, and then it kind of it's Sunday to Sunday. It's Sunday to Sunday. That's all I could say.
Yeah, and some of that's on purpose. I mean, we've actually talked about a different direction or having somebody do testimonies, and then all of a sudden the Holy Spirit's like, I'll go out and do something and come back and he's on and I'm like, hey, that was the Red Sea. I mean, I'm like, look, I really feel like you're supposed to continue this, not do testimonies. He's like, you know what? I'm hearing the same thing. I
Wow.
mean, if you get too far ahead, and we've also talked about if he's not in it, we might as well burn this thing to the ground.
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to do something he's not in. We have too much of that no in general. You know what I mean? And so we want to make sure that we're sensitive to what he's doing so that it actually has an impact. Um, so if you start getting too far ahead and then follow it and not take the guidance of what he's saying to do and the power of it and people being able to be changed starts fading away, and we want to
Yeah.
make sure we stay sensitive.
So what's this worship experience? Where am I in the middle of like YouTube branded everywhere?
This is coined as Cube. That's what this is.
Okay.
So we've used this in multiple places now. We have a standalone one too. So
What's cool
let me
about
find
this
out
this
where I'm
scene?
at.
So he's gonna load it, and it'll take a second. So as you come in here, yeah, the kind of planned again. Like we sound like we're doing everything off cuff, but they're little things like
Oh yeah.
like you would just do a service where I cue him. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna talk to people a little bit longer about that scripture, and when here load the video. By the time I come in, video will be loaded. But what's so cool about in this? I had this Bethel song, I think Bethel music, and it was a revival song, and it kind of had this like Celtic vibe or whatever, and there was just people flying around of all diverse backgrounds, just flying around, spinning around circles and dancing. It's just freaking cool. It's just a amazing worship experience. And yeah, I just leave it at that. So imagine if you come in here as it's already listed, and you'll kind of get the gist of it. But at the same time, if we continue to do this, I may have to be like before the service, hey, if you're prone to seizures, you may not want to do this. Like my wife came in here and she was like, oh my gosh. But we're trying to push the boundaries a little bit. So
Oh wow.
God of Jacob, great I am, King of angels, Son of man, voice of many waters, song of heaven's throne, louder than the thunder, make your glory known. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar.
All right, hey, we're going to land the plane. Thank you, VR Tiger. Thank you, He Enables, for the tour, walking around just a couple of the worlds that you've built for Oasis Church VR. Hey, if you want more information on Oasis Church VR, check out the website, oasischurchvr.com. It's amazing how that works together, oasischurchvr.com. And there's links to Discord, links to service times. A really immersive, very incredible, creative experience, and would definitely recommend you all take a look at it. Talk about preaching creatively. Oh my gosh, could you imagine? Oh yeah, let's talk about the guy that's got 3 spears coming out of his heart. And maybe what's the lesson for you? Like, the application on some of this stuff is surreal. And so awesome creativity here, guys. Keep it up, and looking forward to seeing you continue to reach a different type of person in virtual reality. But hey, we're going to land a plane. And so for He Enables, for VR Tiger, hey, this is Jeff Reed with Leadership Network. Thanks for jumping on the show here. Hey, we'll see you next week at Metaverse Church Next. Y'all have a good day.